my friends, welcome back to Spiritual Realism, honest and joyful explorations of ideas to help us align with our true purpose and live with courage and connection. I am your host, Spiritual Realism painter and storyteller, Jacqueline Clare, and today I want to talk about AI and why, as a painter, I am not afraid of AI. This video will be somewhat in two parts. Bumped into my paints there. My perspective on AI, and then also an unabashed hierarchy of things you can hang on your wall. Okay? To be clear, my exploration of AI here is in relation to tactile or in-person arts. Art you can touch, art you can watch live in person. And it is not a broad statement about AI in general. I think AI is going to be hugely disruptive for all kinds of industry. But as a painter, I am not afraid of AI. And it's quite simple. It is because I believe that art is important. And I believe that art is not propaganda. Art is not something that is just an artist trying to hammer home an idea or sell you something. Art is an expression of the human soul. Art is a human being with a history, with loves, with losses, with frustrations and joys and aspirations and setbacks, striving to apply themselves to create something that will speak to you, something that expresses the human soul, and in that dance, in that wrestling, something of the divine shines through it. Something unexpected shines through it. And this is so important to people for many reasons. And, like historically, people have always had art because it means something to us. But one element that I want to share with you is that this whole sort of sweaty struggle to aim for something that is glorious and in its own way perfect, not empirically perfect, but like its own pinnacle, is a reflection of what we are all doing with our lives. We are born and we crawl and we struggle. And ultimately, it is all because we are refining this thing that is our soul. And just like the artist striving to forge something to kind of be able to hold up to God and be like, I made this in your style of fashioning. I tried to make this humble thing. And that's ultimately what we are doing with our lives, and until we reach our ultimate reckoning. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I did. Here's what I made with what I was given in this life, and here's who I became, and this is what I did. And so it's like so resonant to watch or look at an artist either striving to do this, like in motion, a ballet dancer doing it, or to see a finished work like a painting, and it has these like layers of history, the history of the artist, the history of the artist wrestling with that exact piece, and then just this capturing of stillness and motion that can really root us in our own bodies, in the present, and help us connect with ourselves as the protagonists of our own story. Like there's just this beautiful mirroring that happens in art, and when we look at art and engage with art. And I truly believe that there is nothing that will ever be able to replace that. It can copy it, it can try, it can emulate it, but it's never going to be that thing. Just like they could make hypothetically a AI robot of your mother or your lover, your favorite aunt. Okay, but it's not them. You don't want to hug it, you know what I mean? It's like creepy. You don't want a wax figure, you want the actual person. And I think of one day when they can have like AI ballets, or AI opera. It's novel. I think we'd all like to see it for a few minutes, but ultimately it will not be interesting. It will not hold our interest the way watching a human live in the moment, striving for that beautiful expression. It will just never compare. It's not about hitting the notes perfectly. It's about a human soul being expressed through music. I do think AI will replace marketing and advertising art hugely. I do think AI will disrupt illustration a lot. And that's unfortunate because those are jobs that people could be hired for. But I think it's mostly unavoidable. And again, I think if you just want something that looks cool or looks, according to a certain scheme, and you aren't looking for that that guttural and yet refined reflection of the human spirit, then it's basically fine. I made a birthday card with AI and it's adorable, Hallmark cards aren't art, so you can just use AI to fill in that space. So that's my take on AI. Now I'm going to share with you my hierarchy of arts, sometimes in quotes, specifically that you might hang on your wall. And some of these AI compete with, and again, I think that's totally fine because it's not art. And if you have these on your wall, or you're thinking about putting these things on your wall, you need to know that according to Jacqueline, my unabashed hierarchy, that they are not art, and there is a hierarchy here. So let us begin. So we will start with blank walls and posters. Blank walls can actually be done well, but it is rare. Blank walls can work really nicely, particularly if you have some sort of earthenware home. If you have a home made out of adobe or cog or some other kind of earthen composite, a rock wall, these types of things can be blank and they can look serene, clean, and beautiful. But it's significant that they need to be of some sort of organic material because that organic material is what we're talking about. It reflects that element of obviously not humanity, but of earth, of organic life, of real God-given life. If you live in a manufactured home or apartment, you have a blank wall, you should put something on it because it usually looks just sad, and that you don't realize that you need beauty around you, that you need things that speak to your own human spirit. I'll take a little deviation here and say, once upon a time, people used to live with handmade things, period. That's all that there was. And we have slowly perfected manufacturing and we have lost a lot of handmade goods. At the same time, materials are getting cheaper and we're importing things from countries with unethical manufacturing practices. And so energetically, so many of the things we're surrounded by in our homes and when we drive by down on the streets are ugly, cheap, mass-produced. And I think it causes a little bit of sorrow for our souls because we yearn for things, whether consciously or not, that resonate with who we are. And I'm not talking merely about your personality. That's where what you hang on your wall might be expressed. I'm talking about you as an organic human being with a soul, with imperfections and quirks, yet made in the image of God. So as many things as you can place around you that are handmade or at least made out of natural materials. Get a wooden spoon instead of a plastic one. Not only is it healthier, but it resonates more with our God-given material nature. Okay, so blank walls can be done well, but probably not. Then there are posters. These are bought from big box stores that are usually AI or photography based, sports teams, celebrities, concerts, movies, that sort of thing. These are wretched, but there is an honesty to it. At least you're not trying to be elegant or classy in any way. Usually it's just an expression of what you think is cool. Maybe it's a conversation piece. And I think if you are a male under 25, it's okay to have posters on your wall. There are also like really cool like classic posters that were actually made by artists and all that kind of stuff, and that's sort of a different category. But I'm talking about if you go to Walmart and you flip through their big things and you buy posters. So they're pretty horrible, but again, it's honest. At least you're not trying to be anything other than horrible. Okay? Next on the list is the most abominable thing that exists in anything peripheral to art and that could exist in your home. And this is what I call fake art. Fake art is something that you buy at a big box store that looks like maybe some sort of photography art or painting, but you cannot track it down to a real artist. Okay? There's no human being that's real associated with it. Sometimes they're even signed, but it's like it's not a real person. And these are AI generated, or they are made by machines, made by, God forbid, like Chinese slave labor. That's what I always picture. Like that's how they feel to me energetically. Like sorrowful people entrapped have assembly line painted on this, and sometimes they even have texture to make it look convincing, and it's just dishonest, and it is an abomination, and you should never ever ever buy these or have them in your space. Please take them down and get rid of them and never buy them again if you have them. And I'm reacting so strongly to it for a lot of reasons. Primarily, one, maybe they're unethically produced. Also, it's just a violation of what art is, that expression of the human spirit aiming for something beautiful. And it really is that AI robot of your aunt. It's a fake, soulless version made to look like it's real. And it's just the worst. Don't do it, okay? That's the worst. If finances are your concern, there are lots of solutions. One is as simple as going to resale and thrift stores and finding art that some local grandma made and somehow it ended up in a thrift store. And if you search hard enough, you'll find some cool stuff. And at least, it's made by like a quirky, sweet human being who took the time to get their paints out and make something. So next from the abominable, horrible fake art is another level of big box store art, but it's where if you do your research, you actually can track it down to a somewhat contemporary artist. So it's an artist from Idaho who got a licensing deal with Walmart, and they're now producing their prints. I still think it's bad. You shouldn't do it. But it's better because at least it's made by a human being, and that human being was able to profit a little bit through this licensing deal. What I don't like about it is for it to appeal in a big box store, they're usually very, very watered down, personality-less, trendoid, and it's faking art. If it's on a canvas or it's framed, it's still made to look like art, but it's extremely mass produced. I think licensing is better applied to chocolate bars and water bottles and pillows and things like that, where you're taking a cool image and putting it on a different product instead of just making the product mass-produced canvases. But again, if you can track it down, it's a real artist with a name that you can verify, at least it was made originally by a flesh and blood person. If you're gonna go that route, I say go ahead and buy a reproduction at a big box store of a masterful classic painting like the Mona Lisa or a Klimt or a Monet or a Van Gogh, because there is an honesty factor. It's obviously a print. You obviously don't have the Mona Lisa in your living room, and it's not milquetoast. These are gorgeous paintings, so you might as well just do that. And again, you can still track it down to a real life human being who expressed something of their God-given soul, and on top of that was a master of their craft, master, innovator, all of these cool things. Still keep in mind that you are supporting the big box store and not an artist. So, other things you can do, still talking about prints, which are typically very affordable. You can find artists that you like on Instagram, online, even from art markets, and then you follow them, or on markets like Society6 or Fine Art America. These are online outlets with real artists, and you can buy print-on-demand works from them. So it's their original images that are printed on canvases and framed posters and that sort of thing. And what's cool about that is you get to find more unique pieces that fit your style. It's what you resonate with, it's what you like. That artist is making a little bit of commission off of each piece that sells. What's not so great about it for you is that it doesn't have any resale or collector value, because if it's print on demand, they aren't signed, they aren't numbered. But typically they're going to be the least expensive option of a living artist. Next, you can buy prints from the artist, and this does have collector value. Definitely get it signed or numbered. And I really think prints are neat. As a painter, I enjoy selling prints because you can spend less and get bigger pieces, or you can crop it uniquely. They also have different finishes. Sometimes they're easier to light than the original painting that has texture. Of course, the texture is absolutely pure gold, but if you, for whatever reason of lighting or aesthetic, you want just like a flatter finish, prints are also great for that. And I do have a little show and tell. Here's an example of one of my prints, Jewels of the Universe. And it's cool because more people can own the image. And again, this is bigger than the original, and it works really well. I love it. And I have my own prints in my house, so I think they can be done really elegantly, really fun, really expressively, and you can support an artist. You can get something that has some collector value, and you don't have to save up to be able to invest in it. Of course, creme de la creme is original art, because it is the moment. It is the moment. It is the live performance encapsulated in this beautiful canvas of motion and stillness. And you could x-ray it, and you could see the history of the painting and all the different layers and iterations and the things that the artist struggled with to capture. And it just has so much spirit, and it has texture and humanity, and you're the only one who has the handmade original. It probably has the sweat of the artist somewhere in there, or has an eyelash trapped in there somewhere. It's just so neat, you know? It's just like if you think about like your favorite musician from the past or something, if you could somehow like encapsulate a live performance of theirs and like have it in your living room. Like there's just no comparison to that. I love original work, and it when you can invest in it, that's the way I recommend you go. There is a potential for appreciation if the artist becomes increasingly well known. It has a resale value that never depreciates and only grows. And it might become, a family heirloom. It might become extremely valuable. And whether or not you will still have that gorgeous, energetic connection breathing into your home, you bring in the story of the painting to your space, and then you become part of that history. And that's pretty cool too, and like really high level antiques and art, the history of where those pieces have been is part of the value ultimately. So you become part of that story. And again, if budgets are a constraint, and for who is it not a constraint, you can find art that is at the appropriate level. Search for them online. You're going to find lower prices direct from artists than from galleries. But of course, galleries can help you discover art. But nowadays, most artists have online presence, and you can go to art fairs and art markets. And, the smaller the piece, usually, the less it is. You can always frame them to make them more stately in your space. And that's it. That is my unabashed hierarchy of arts, quote unquote, and things you can hang on your wall. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Please remember to like and subscribe and share this with anyone you think would enjoy it. I love hanging out with you. Until next time, I wish you the best for playing your unique part in making this world a better place. I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.